Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I thought it'd be really cool if we reacted to the recent job action trailer. I thought that would be really cool. A lot of people are sharing their reactions. When I first saw this during the live letter, I was kind of blown away, honestly. I have mixed feelings for some jobs, but for the most part I see interesting evolutions of what we've seen. Starting off with the limit break then for Viper, that LB3 looking absolutely sick. Transitioning into the level 100 of our Warrior of Light. I personally would love to get that box of soul crystals. I don't know what I would have to do to get that, but I would love to get it. Dragoon first then. As you can see, Dragoon is something I personally like playing. I was actually quite surprised that there wasn't a massive overhaul scheduled for Dragoon for Dawntrail. They seem to be saving a lot of the major class identity changes for the 8.0 expansion from what I've read, which is an interesting decision. A lot of people, including myself, were under the impression there was going to be an overhaul, but for the most part it seems to just be an evolution of what we have. Some people seem to be quite disappointed in that. I'm personally okay with that. I quite enjoy Dragoon how it is. I didn't want them to radically change it, and I certainly didn't want them to rush into something that would be a change that no one would like, including myself. So I'm happy with the changes. It looks like some of this, I mean, obviously we've seen quite a lot of this before. We've got a few extra abilities though. I can't wait to see what those are called. Of course, we don't have any information on what all of those tooltips are yet, and any information on what those, where those fit into a proper rotation. Paladin then, looking pretty much like Paladin. We've obviously got the homogenization of a few skills mentioned during the live letter, turning into smaller button combinations. You can actually toggle this mode on and off, they mentioned, but it's if you want to have things line up and press a button for multiple things. It seems more things are being baked together as an option. There's a lot of really cool sort of electrical based attacks I've noticed with the visual changes to Paladin. Obviously it's mostly looking the same. There's no drastic changes here that you can really sort of tell, not at least from this footage. It just looks like Paladin. Paladin is entirely fun. I enjoy it, but Dragoon and Paladin have been overshrouded massively by Warrior. I was very happy with what I saw. Warrior is my favorite tank in the game. It just looks devastating now. All of the extra abilities that you would want to complement Fellcleave and obviously Decimate, everything looks slightly different. There's that new shield ability just procced. It just looks insane now. It really does. So then we've got what our inner release. I've got Fellcleave. And then we've got whatever this set is that we're moving into now. We've got a massive explosion and then yep. And that one. That's the follow-up. That's the new move. It's just an enormous axe that you summon above your head and you slam into the ground. It's a perfect evolution in my opinion. I can't wait to play it. Astro, I was quite disappointed initially from what they mentioned in the live letter itself. You're drawing 3 cards out of a set of 4 different types now, which is curative, defensive, offensive. Well, actually 3, isn't it? 3 types, and you draw 3 cards at once from that pool. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure where I sit on Astro. Astro, I don't think got the love that it deserved. There are some seriously cool looking abilities though, like just ridiculous as it goes off. Here we go. Is this the bit? This is the bit where it just goes like it is a galaxy that spawns above you. I'm guessing that's the star. Any second now. Where is it? There it is. Look at that. Wow. So I don't know what that's about, but that looks incredible. I don't play a lot of Astro, mostly because of the changes, you know, at certain points in the past have made me shy away from it. Dancer looks cool. I actually really like the way that Dancer plays at the minute. It's not anything, you know, groundbreaking with the changes. You'll notice from a lot of these jobs, they haven't really gone miles away from where they were. Just seems like very safe iterations and evolutions. I'm a little bit worried about how much is being condensed though, because as much as there's an option to take away that one button combination of lots of abilities where it just replaces the button with the next button in the thing, they've said that the majority of things, that looks so cool by the way, is going to just be an option. You'll be able to toggle that on and off, but also in the same breath, Viper and Pictomancer very much look like they're built around that. So it'll be interesting to see when we finally get a hands-on with this, when the game comes out, as to what exactly is entailed with that. Are we forced with some jobs to not have the option to turn that off, or do we have that option across the board? So there's lots of questions. The obviously Reaper looking pretty awesome here. Reaper looks great. I've never really got into Reaper. I need to give it more time. It does look very flashy and very flamboyant. Thing is though, watching back this trailer a few times, for some reason Reaper feels slow to me now, which when Reaper was first shown, and indeed if you looked at it separately, it doesn't look slow at all. But if you compare it to Viper, or or even Pictomancer to some degree, it looks quite slow. Obviously Red Mage, they don't seem to have made many changes to Red Mage. There's a few new abilities, obviously new job abilities as you would expect, but they're not breaking the mold. They're not going out of their way to change the way that the job works, as is the case for all of them, like we say. It just looks really good. Things look really crisp. I was paying more attention to the background scenery for some of these jobs than I were to the actual jobs themselves. I don't think I'm the only one. That looks so good. That like rose attack thing, I don't know what it's called, and the AoE there looking great. And then when we come to Gunbreaker, my brain initially sort of switched off a bit up until a certain point. So obviously we've got the Wild West sort of theme area, which really does look awesome. They start with Flamethrower. A bunch of people said if they start with Flamethrower, I'm done. But there we go. That circular saw move is sick. But the thing that really blew my mind and gave me quite a lot of interest in Machinist is the ability coming right up. So not too long. There's Bioblast, obviously. And then we're doing this bit. Yep. We're summoning in the robot. Yep. Same as before. Looks normal. Perfect. And then the follow-up after all of this. That looks amazing, by the way, the AoE. And there's that AoE side sort of like attack. I'm not really sure what any of these moves are called. This, oh my goodness. It's where you're summoning two massive Gatling guns by the looks of it, shooting them wildly, and then there's a machine behind you firing rockets that decimate the target. I think that was probably the moment where I was like, I might pick up Machinist in Dawntrail. That's the first time I felt like that after looking at one of these job trailers. Obviously, Huton with Ninja here, being baked into being a passive now is an interesting move. Of course, that means you get the permanent haste buff now, and you also gain hidden for things that would give you that. So it'll be interesting to see how Ninja plays. I've never been much of a Ninja player either. It does look cool. Lateral progression, slight UI changes, as you can see, new job gauge changes. Looks really good. Looks really good. But again, I'm not somebody who plays Ninja, so there's a lot of things going on that I don't necessarily understand. Sage, however, is something I've spent the majority of this expansion playing. And I'm really happy that we've got an AoE dot. So you've got Eucrasia, I think it's called. Now it's getting a bit silly with the names, where you can essentially apply an AoE version of the dot dosis to multiple targets, which is pretty sick. And also there's a button that increases healing as well. So they seem to have buffed Sage quite a bit. I was really happy with where it was in Endwalker, and I am even more tempted to go back to Sage, and I probably will play quite a bit of Sage in amongst. I think I'm White Mage Frau static at the moment for Dawntrail, it looks like, but I'll switch in and out as is needs be. But very excited for Sage. For Black Mage, a lot of people have criticized Black Mage and said that standard rotation is dead. I'm not really sure about the familiarities with Black Mage. I've not got far enough on my Black Mage to be any good at it, so I don't have any real opinions myself. But from what I can tell, people are terrified about the new UI system, terrified about the new abilities, there is the addition to move your ley lines once per ley lines. So that's pretty sick, especially considering all the mechanics require you to run around. And as a black mage, that's punishment. So there's a few homogenizations, I shouldn't say that, but consolidations of buttons into single buttons to look forward to, which a lot of black mages, including my friend, weren't happy about. And additionally, mana is a concern, because, yeah, ice is going to be the only way to return mana, right? Or at least that's what we've been told, but we haven't seen all of the tooltips of all of the abilities, so it'll have to wait and see. Hopefully there's something we're missing from black mage that makes it just as enjoyable as it currently is. I'm worried about the homogenizations or consolidations of buttons, though, into single actions. We'll have to see how that shapes up. Viper then looks really cool. I like their job gauge. It kind of looks like a boiling cauldron of fire. I love the fact that you get to like this, what do they call it? Aura explosion or something. Like you fill up this meter and it starts pulsing. The thing about Viper is when you actually do your burst, which is about to go into in this footage, it is probably the fastest looking thing in the game. Like, watch this. There's 1 attack, 2, okay, 3, and these are all being weaved together, 4, and then there's 5, and then even after that, there's still so much follow-up as well. You've got ranged attacks, you've got, it just looks really good. It looks really good. Hopefully it's as good when you play it. White Mage then is something I'll be playing probably in my static. From what I can tell, the big thing to take from this is they've given you Icarus, so the ability to dash towards a target, which is really cool. It was one of the movement abilities that was missing sorely from White Mage, especially when Sage came out. I immediately played Sage and loved it, and when I went back to my White Mage, I was like, I can't move closer to the target. Apparently, Presence of Mind, the follow-up, will be a new action that has 3 charges. So I'm not sure what that will be. I don't even know if it's shown in this job action trailer. I can't really tell. It just mostly seems like glares to me. There is also a new ability towards the end of this, but I'm excited to see, you know, White Mage mostly staying the same, but we've got that, that dash move is so good. It's going to be so useful, so incredibly useful. I love it on Sage. It's going to be lovely to have. The extra damage being tied to Presence of Mind is a bit confusing, and they also said that it's going to be an AoE, 3 charges of AoE, so I'm not really sure the benefit of that. It depends on the potency in comparison to just, you know, going up, dotting and holy spamming in a dungeon, because that's where you're going to see most AoEs. You're not going to really see AoEs in many, you know, savage fights, are you? Maybe the odd extreme, but yeah. Monk, I really have no idea about. I have not put enough time into Monk to really know what's old and what's new. I will freely admit that to you right now. I am not a professional melee player. Monk then looks a little slow, but it also looks similar to how it is. I don't know. If you're a Monk player, let me know. Are you excited about anything? Are you concerned about anything? I've not really seen many people talk about Monk. All I see is the occasional Doom post, which they don't seem to have any answers of why they're not looking forward to it. I don't know. It looks interesting. I might pick it up at some point. Obviously, I'll get them all to 100, as I usually do, because I can't not have them all lit up orange on my character sheet. Dark Knight's interesting. They've done a lot with the shadow, with the shade, when it comes out, the living shadow. It seems like they've got a lot of plans after listening to the live letter talk with Yoshi P, where they were talking about how they wanted to give the living shadow more meaning and have more things with that. Don't know what it exactly entails, but yeah, there's some really cool moves. As you can see, there's the living shadow coming out. Yeah, for the most part, I think most people probably are okay. Again, it's going to be difficult for them not to be okay, apart from a couple of situations that we've mentioned already, with concerns about button bloat and consolidation. But a lot of these new moves just look like natural evolutions for the most part of what we already have. But then I really struggled to see what was new here. The last time I played Bard properly, and I mean properly, was Heavensward. So it has been a very long time. I love the artifact weapon being an electric guitar, by the way. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, the only thing we really got from the live letter was that all of the songs are going to be related to buffs now, buffs and stuff like that, and will not do damage. So that's a thing. I would have liked to have seen some use out of Peloton whilst in combat, maybe similar to how Scholars have got a movement speed increase for an entire party in combat. That would have been cool as a cooldown. Peloton is really only used for traversing between packs in dungeons or between bosses or whatever. It's not really that useful because it doesn't work in combat. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I'll have to play it to find out. Summoner was the thing that took a lot of people by surprise. So obviously they're starting here with the Phoenix, but that'll be probably the last part of that rotation. So the way that it's supposed to be is you get you're supposed to start with Solar Bahamut, which is the one that's coming out now. So this will be the start of a rotation, right? So you get Solar Bahamut come out, which is amazing after you've done your rotation of the 3 lessers. And then after Solar Bahamut, you get normal Bahamut, and then another Solar Bahamut, and then I believe it's then Phoenix. I forget the exact order, but they've changed the order of summons. But yeah, obviously we've got Titan and stuff. They're not doing the full rotation here, obviously, with all of the summon abilities. They're just rushing through them to get to Solar Bahamut. There's Garuda. Because otherwise this particular job would have taken up maybe like a minute more on the actual job action trailer. Look at that background, by the way. So Solar Bahamut is sick. It's basically comprised of wings made out of swords and fires swords in, like, look at that AoE. Oh my god, that's so good. It's like Mega Flare but with swords. What's not to love? Then we got that weird like explosion at the end, which could be a buff or something. Very cool. Samurai, I was kind of a little bit underwhelmed. I didn't think too much of this. I didn't really tell what was new about that. Again, the problem with me is I tend to play a lot of tanks, a lot of ranged casters, and a lot of healers. I don't tend to play that much melee apart from the odd bit of Dragoon. So I really need to broaden my horizons a bit more in the future so I can actually comment on things a bit easier. That's a personal problem. My own personal playstyle is not as broad as it should be, as you would expect from a content creator. So I'll try and improve that. But from what I can see, it seems pretty interesting. It doesn't seem anywhere near as fast. There doesn't seem to be any major changes. There's some new abilities, but it still looks like incredibly slow in comparison to Viper, which everything will do. Scholar, then, a lot of people worldwide have mentioned on social media how much they love the transformation. So there's a thing called Seraphism. Seraphism? I kept adding another ism to the end. Seraphism, where your appearance of your character will actually change. You actually turn it into an angel. You have angel wings and your outfit changes for that buff duration. Aside from that, yeah, Scholar. We'll have to wait and see how good Scholar is. I like the idea of this Seraphism thing. It looks amazing. Will it be enough to make me want to play Scholar? Probably not, sadly. I've never really understood the premise of having the majority of my healing being responsible for my summon. It's not my personal enjoyment. I much prefer White Mage, just for the more hands-on approach. Even though that is false, it just visually looks that way, doesn't it? Pictomancer, I was very surprised at. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. It doesn't look as simplified as I expected. Although the button UI, which is not shown on the job action trailer, that was shown in the segment that Yoshi P played in the live letter. Definitely go back and watch that if you can on the live letter VOD. Essentially showed a simple rotation in amongst the management of different colored paints, the ability to flip those paints into other colors and then use different abilities, but also to create these motifs. So you create an animal, you create a weapon, and you create a landscape. The landscape's responsible for buffs and an AoE attack, if I remember correctly, party-wide buffs. The creature is responsible for, you get all of the parts of a creature, and then you can summon a big part of that creature, be that the obviously a Moogle or the Medine, I think it is, the green creature. There's a lot of off globals. It looks quite fun, honestly. There's a lot of buttons that I don't understand yet. There's obviously like AoE side of things as well as single target, but it doesn't have a res, which means they're going to focus quite highly on DPS. The party buff idea, I need to look into that more when we get hands-on with that, obviously in the future when the game comes out. But I'm really excited to play some Pictomancer, and it definitely tickled my fancy. I was like, okay, this looks new, original, and interesting. But again, my concern about the button bloat being, you know, simplified with that, you know, the job is designed with those button replacements in mind. It'll be interesting to see if I can toggle those off or not. Gunbreaker, I mean, Gunbreaker's Gunbreaker. It's kind of, I have a neutral reaction to Gunbreaker. It's certainly not the worst tank in the world, not by a large margin, but I don't know, it just doesn't tickle my fancy personally. Nothing on this particular job action trailer made me go, I think I'll play Gunbreaker as my tank option for when I do my my roulettes in the next expansion. No, nothing there tickles my fancy. I think it probably could have done with a bit more. But that was the job action trailer. What do you think about that? Personally, I think it was a safe option. I don't want to be cruel with that word. I'm not being offensive when I say it was the safe option. I think it was the safe option for now, just evolving what we have until they have the resources and planning in mind without rushing into a massive change to make massive changes in 8.0. A lot of people have said that they don't like that. I understand that completely, but personally, I want these things to be better thought out. I want there to be more feedback, especially from Dawntrail, for them to take that on board and go, right, how do we change things? Because during the live letter, they mentioned, for example, with Summoner, they're not sure what they wanted to do for Dawntrail, so they kept it largely the same, because they were going to take away Resurrection from them and then basically rebuild Summoner around the idea of focusing more on that DPS or a different direction rather than that, you know, semi-support role with that res. Because you take a res away from someone, you basically can up their damage numbers, right? That's the trade-off. If you have a resurrection, then you do less DPS. Typically, that's the case for the most part, apart from odd patches here and there with Red Mage. But it's going to be interesting, because they mentioned how they still might remove that resurrection for Summoner in 8.0. A lot of people seem to be having negative reactions to that. But I don't know. If they want to redesign the majority of these jobs to be something different, after 10 years, you know, they've changed quite significantly since A Realm Reborn, so they can change more, right? If there's something that feels right for the game and the direction it's going, say, for instance, the feedback is that the majority of people like the way that they've done Pictomancer and Viper, their latest, newest iterations, the example of what they're capable of, and they work out well and the feedback's good, then maybe they'll tailor other jobs to be built around that as a concept for how DPS should be done. It depends. The balance is a very tricky thing, and Square Enix and Final Fantasy XIV has never usually been afraid of throwing the dice on the table and taking a risk, typically. Aside from, I would imagine that one of those dice on the table is already flipped. They already, you know, they're using what they already have. So not necessarily disappointment from me on my initial inspection from the job action trailer, but apprehension, because there might be some other pieces of the puzzle per job that make them awesome. Remember the last time people said that Scholar had nothing for Endwalker, and then it suddenly turned into something that everybody rushed to play? It could be one of those situations. Until the people that were invited to the media talk and obviously release their information, we won't know, right? Or at least until players like ourselves get to play this when it comes out. So yeah, very exciting stuff. The next few weeks are going to be absolutely nuts. Let me know what you're most excited for. Did the job action trailer wow you, or were you not typically that wowed by it? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.